Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, which gives us the foundation of biblical marriage. Heniken tuta, katalepse anthropos, tan patera autou kai ten metera autou, kai pras kalethesetai pras ten gunaika autou, kai esontai hoi duo es sarka mian. A lot of moving parts. Let's start with the opening here, heniken tutu. This word henika or heniken means something like because of or on account of. And it's on account of this tuta here, which is the genitive, because heniken takes the genitive, refers back to verse 23, where you have the woman being taken from the man. And so now we see that because of that reality, the main verb here is katalepse. So what is man going to do? And the verb is katalepo, as you can see, with the P here in the root form turning into a psi. That's a square of stop scenario. So really there's actually a sigma here. This is with the EI ending, a third singular future active indicative. Katalepo means to leave behind. The underlying Hebrew is azav, which basically does mean to leave behind. It's a fairly strong word. Often it is used for even like abandon or forsake. And so it's a very strong sentiment here. The subject, the nominative, is the anthropos. And so because of in verse 23, because of the way in which man and woman relate to one another, now the man will leave something behind. And we now figure out what that something is. Notice it's a will, sort of expressing a general condition in the future. And he will leave behind tan patera autou and ten metera autou. His father, both, of course, are, in a sense, a genitive of relationship there. His patera and his metera. Now, here in a second, I'm going to show you some of the New Testament quotations of this verse. You also see it in some Second Temple Jewish writings. And one of the interesting things about that, if you look into it, and in fact, some of the manuscripts of Genesis 2 as well, is that these possessive or relational genitive pronouns here sometimes show up, sometimes don't, or you might have the first one but not the second one. That's pretty normal for some, sort of scribal noise or turbulence in how this would be rendered. But in the Old Greek, at least, it's his father and his mother. So that is the relational pairing that this man will leave behind. Then what is he going to do? He's going to proskolao here. And you see a theta, eta, sigma. Here's the root form with a third singular ending. So this is a third singular future passive indicative. And the underlying Hebrew is davak here. And that's also kind of a really interesting verb. It also is somewhat strong. It is often translated, from the Hebrew at least, to cling tightly to something. And it's not just used for relationships. It can be used for other things as well. The Greek here doesn't exactly mean cling necessarily. It often means to join to something, hence the pros here. And so you could take this as a true passive and say something like will be joined to. But if you want to maybe hedge it a little bit closer to the Hebrew, you could say something like will cling to. You could even probably get away with that. And essentially you would be treating this theta as essentially a middle in meaning. And that probably would work as well. But to whom is he going to cling or be joined? It's pros. Notice the repetition of the preposition there, which again, it's similar to what we saw with the presence or absence of the autou. Some renderings of this verse will actually drop that pros, because in some sense you could argue that it's redundant since you already have a pros right here. But he's going to cling to or be joined to ten gunaika autou. Now you have a shift of relationship where you're going from the father and mother to now your wife. And then the final conclusion is esontai, hoi duo e sarka mian. Esontai here is the third plural future of a me. So they will be, and who's the they? It's hoi duo, that is this new couple, this man and wife. The two will be ace, something like as, sarka mian, one flesh. And even though, of course, you have a man in the mix here, this is the feminine form of the word haste, the number one, because it is modifying sarx, which is feminine. So they will be one flesh. So a lot of great stuff here, and it's a longer video. But if you want to bear with me, you can quit now, but if you want to bear with me, let's take a look at some places this shows up in the New Testament. Matthew 19:5, which we've looked at in a previous video because Genesis chapter 1 is also included there. It quotes from here. We'll take a look at Mark 10, which is actually, these are parallel passages where Jesus is dealing with the question of divorce. And in Mark's account, Jesus responds to this question about why Moses permitted divorce and so forth. He says, "For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother, and the two will become one flesh." So this first line here corresponds to the Henneke all the way through the father and mother. But notice, his in Mark only shows up with the patera. Mother lacks the L2, something I mentioned a second ago. Then actually in the Markan version, although Matthew has it, Mark skips over the clinging bit and then just goes down to the two becoming one flesh. And he uses that as, here in this case, Jesus is using this as a grounding for the significance and permanence of marriage as God designs it. And then, of course, Paul quotes from this in 1 Corinthians 6:16, as well as in Ephesians 5:31. So this particular verse is significant in a lot of different places in the New Testament. So thanks for hanging in there for a longer video, but hopefully this pays off. This is such a seminal verse, not only just in the broader theology of marriage and anthropology of marriage, but also for how it's used so many times in the New Testament. So this is Genesis 2:24.